So, the year was 52 BC, and 50,000 Roman legionaries were surrounded on both sides by over 300,000 warriors of Gaul. On this day, would Julius Caesar and his men survive the battle and claim victory over the Gallic rebellion, or would they be defeated when the Gauls reclaimed the land? Well, today I want to describe to you the events that culminated in the harrowing Battle of Alesia. My knowledge on this topic comes from research I've done on the internet, television, and playing the game Total War 1, 2. Well, unlike the thousands of other historical battles that have taken place throughout history, this one is especially significant because it marks one of the greatest military victories of all time, in my opinion, and statistically it is. Today we're going to be going over a quick preview of the factions involved, so Rome and the Gauls, and we're going to talk about some events that happened before the battle, and then the battle, and then we're going to wrap up with some closing thoughts. So, first of all, we should have a quick overview of the Romans and their forces. They were led by Julius Caesar, who was elected governor of Gaul by the Romans in 58 BC. He used very brutal military tactics and was very cunning and was able to quickly take over the land of Gaul. He was given control of 12 legions of soldiers, which really equaled about 50,000 men. Historical author F. Kavesi of RomanEmpire.com describes what the typical Roman soldier or legionary would look like. They would carry a pilum or throwing spear. They would wield a short sword known as a gladius. They have banded metal torso armor and have a large rectangular rounded shield, just like that one right there. The skill of the individual Roman soldier and the fearlessness and military intellect of Julius Caesar made the Romans an army to be feared by many. Now that we have some knowledge about Gaul, Rome and its armies, we should learn about Gaul and its forces. So, Gaul was a land basically where France is today in Western Europe. The people, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, the people of Gaul were of Celtic descent and lived in an agrarian society. This means that they mostly just spent all their time farming. Now, even though they had iron tools, they would have been classified as barbarians by other civilized civilizations, sort of like Rome. Now, the nature of Gaul was that it was a bunch of tribes basically living together, and they were totally ununited. In fact, into battle, they wouldn't even wear shirts occasionally. They would just sort of wear whatever was available to them at the time. Historical author John Haywood talks about Vercingetorix, who became the leader of the last Gallic rebellion in Gaul. He was a nobleman from the Arverni tribe and united the people together. He himself commanded 80,000 men going against the Romans. Now, before we talk about the battle, we should talk a little bit about the prelude to the battle, what happened. So John Haywood, again, who's a historical author, talks about how after this rebellion started, Julius Caesar and his men went on a brutal campaign to try to put it down as soon as they possibly could. This went pretty well because the thing is, Caesar was trying to get Vercingetorix to come out into the open where he could easily defeat his army with superior tactics and skill. Now, Vercingetorix, however, did not fall for this. He was a smart man, and he instead used guerrilla warfare, doing hit-and-run attacks against Caesar and his men, just trying to wear them down. He made use of what's known as scorched earth tactics, where every time the Romans were about to take a city from him, he'd just burn down farms of his own, just to deny them supplies to restock. Now, author F. Kavesi of RomanEmpire.com cites that in doing this, Vercingetorix really working on Caesar's army, and Caesar was actually retreating back to Rome when Vercingetorix attacked him in the open because he thought he could finish him off. It didn't happen, and Vercingetorix had to retreat to the city of Alesia. Now, it's time to actually talk about the battle itself. When Vercingetorix retreated into Alesia, Caesar built a 15-mile wall around the city because he didn't want to attack directly, boxing Vercingetorix in so he couldn't escape. And then, before completion of the wall, Vercingetorix sent away for a 250,000 man army to come aid. So Caesar built another wall around here, his Lips.com sites. And then right here, you can see the fortifications that were employed, including wooden stakes, water trenches, a 12-foot wall, and this was on both sides of the 15-mile line. So then the attack went out like this. So the first day, those yellow lines are the walls, the red lines are the Roman forces, the blue lines were the Gauls attacked from. First day, they attacked in one place, total failure, many men died, the Gauls. Second day, a little better, more coordinated, they all died. And you have to remember, Vercingetorix and his men coming from inside the city attacking the wall and from outside the city attacking the wall. But on the last day, the Gauls were actually about to break through, but then Caesar had to get on horseback himself, rallied together the men, and they were able to push back this 300,000 man army. Almost everyone, the Galaic army was killed, captured, or just ran away. So this was basically the end of Vercingetorix and his rebellion. A fight took place over 3 days. Vercingetorix surrendered on the 4th day to Caesar. And in conclusion, the war in Gaul proved to be long and bloody. Julius Caesar was able to pull through, even in the face of Vercingetorix and his guerrilla warfare, and his scorched earth tactics of burning down cities. He was able to get it together and defeat him. And it concluded with a 300,000 man battle at Alesia. And Alesia should be remembered as one of the greatest military victories of all time, and that's why it's important to know about. Thank you.
All right, Sarah, what did you think?
I thought it was interesting, the subject that you chose, but I feel like, as far as the characters, maybe he could have put them together in a little bit more organization. I feel like his strongest point was describing the battle between Julius Caesar and his success through the war. I also feel like maybe he could have talked about the country with walls surrounding the country, like Britain and China. But overall, it was, he tried his best, and I think he succeeded in making his point.
All right. I think the topic is good. I like the information is being pretty consistently cited. There were a couple of places where you would give us descriptions, and I'm not exactly sure where those descriptions came from. I assumed it was background information that was in some of the sources that you cited, but so there was not as much consistency on that as we might expect. But you did a pretty good job telling us where most of your information came from during the presentation. I thought you had a very good setup of what the content was going to be, and then in the body of the speech, the organization was not as clear as it needed to be. I can follow the story. Obviously, it's chronological in nature, but it feels a little bit rambling the way you're telling the story. And when you describe the battles, when you watch it later on, which I hope everybody watches their own speech again. I know it's a little bit tough sometimes. People get kind of critical. I can't watch myself. But you should watch your presentations, because I think you'll hear how sometimes you describe the battles. Well, it wasn't going so well, and then it did. And I'm going, what happened? And it's a little unclear there. And so that's one of the things I think kind of undermines the organization a bit. The visualizations that you have, I assume they're from that game that you are involved in. They look like they might be computer generated images and that sort of thing, and that's fine. I think you could have explained that. I think that would have been something to tell people as you were doing that. And the whole description of the battle that you talk about, I'm thinking to myself, so these people sat inside this city. Well, people built a wall around the city, and they just sat there watching it being built. I mean, how long does it take to build a 15-mile long wall around a city? And then what you described with, water trenches, spikes, a wall, and then 2 other moats around it. And I'm going, and you just sat there and said, well, when you're done with that, we'll attack. That seems a little strange to me, and I'm not sure why that happened. And if it seems strange to Caesar, you should have told us that too, because it's like Caesar's going, damn, they're just going to sit here and wait for it. That seems a little bit odd, and so it's there needs to be a little bit more explanation of what you got on that. I mean, when you described the wall and how it was used as a strategy to fight both sides, from the inside and the outside, that I could understand it because it had been designed that way, and you showed a very good image that made that clear. Like I said, but the context, you'd set up the context of the war in the first place, and you're telling us about they would have been considered barbarians even though they did have iron products, and you give us all that kind of stuff, and then you tell us about the battle, and we've missed something big that's going on in the battle. So you had a bigger context, but you needed a little bit more of the smaller context that's going on there. Okay, thank you.